Samsy. Oh, hey guys, we got story time with Ronnie. Oh, and we're coming to you from Lower Onion Creek campground along the Colorado River there, along the 128. In the video there, we're going to be going from Moab direction and heading to the campground. So we's driving east to west. No, hang on a second. It has to be backwards. West to east. And we will barely get there as the sun's going down. So it's a nice little sunset drive along the Colorado. And we'll get to the Lower Onion and we'll pit in. So now this story, we's gonna pick up the time machine, and we's on part 10. So where we left this thing off is the guy, the time traveler, had just kind of put together that those air shafts that he was seeing all over might not just be air shafts. They might be places where these white ape-like creature things is going up and down from the surface down to somewhere down below. And, well, that's what we'll pick it up right there. Could this thing have vanished down the shaft? I lit a match, and, looking down, I saw a small, white, moving creature with large, bright eyes which regarded me steadfastly as it retreated. It made me shudder. It was so like a human spider. It was clambering down the wall, and now I saw for the first time a number of metal foot and handrests forming a kind of ladder down the shaft. Then the light burned my fingers and fell out of my hand, going out as it dropped. And when I had lit another, the little monster had disappeared. I do not know how long I sat peering down the well. It was not for some time that I could succeed in persuading myself that the thing I had seen was human. But gradually the truth dawned on me. That man had not remained one species, but had differentiated into two distinct animals. That my graceful children of the upper world were not the sole descendants of our generation, but that this bleached, obscene, nocturnal thing which had flashed before me was also heir to all the ages. I thought of the flickering pillars of my theory of an underground ventilation. I began to suspect their true import. And what, I wondered, was this lemur doing in my scene of a perfectly balanced organization? Lemur, something like that. How was it related to the indolent serenity of the beautiful upper worlders? And what was hidden down there at the foot of the shaft? I sat upon the edge of the well, telling myself that at any rate there was nothing to fear, and that there I must descend for the solution of my difficulties. And withal, I was absolutely afraid to go. As I hesitated, two of the beautiful upper world people came running in their amorous sport across the daylight in the shadow. The male pursued the female, flinging flowers at her as he ran. let's just take a peeky-boo at this little drive, because when we turn to go into Lower Creek, you'll be thinking, holy cow, what is going on? Where are we going with this thing? But, anywhere a school bus can go, a big old RV can go. It's just big old wheels. It ain't no big thing. But, it sure looks crazy, that's for sure. All right, now I have lost my place, but we'll find it. Oh, right, he's throwing flowers as he ran after her. Okay. They seemed distressed to find me, my arm against the overturned pillar, peering down the well. Apparently it was considered bad form to remark these apertures, for when I pointed to this one and tried to frame a question about it in their tongue, they were still more visibly distressed and turned away. But they were interested by my matches, and I struck some to amuse them. I tried them again about the well, and again I failed. So presently I left them, meaning to go back to Weena and see what I could get from her. But my mind was already in revolution. My guesses and impressions were slipping and sliding to a new adjustment. I had now a clue to the import of these wells, to the ventilating towers, to the mystery of the ghosts, to say nothing of a hint at the meaning of the bronze gates and the fate of the time machine. Very vaguely, there came a suggestion towards the solution of the economic problem that had puzzled me. Here was the new view. Plainly, this second species of man was subterranean. There were 3 circumstances in particular which made me think that its rare emergence above ground was the outcome of a long-continued underground habit. In the first place, there was the bleached look, common in most animals that live largely in the dark. The white fish of the Kentucky caves, for instance. Then, those large eyes, with the capacity for reflecting light, are common features of nocturnal things. Witness the owl and the cat. And last of all, that evident confusion in the sunshine, that hastily yet fumbling awkward flight towards dark shadow, and that peculiar carriage of the head while in the light, all reinforce the theory of an extreme sensitiveness of the retina. Beneath my feet, then, the earth must be tunneled enormously, and these tunnelings were the habitat of the new race. The presence of ventilating shafts and wells along the hill slopes, everywhere, in fact, except along the river valley, showed how universal were its ramifications. What's so natural, then, as to assume that it was in this artificial underworld that such work as was necessary to comfort of the daylight race was done. The notion was so plausible that I at once accepted it, and went on to assume the how of the splitting of the human species. I dare say you will anticipate the shape of my theory, though for myself, I very soon felt that it fell far short of the truth. Ooh, baby. Man, this guy he's in trouble. He's lost his time machine, and things are just getting weird. Oh, we might be coming up on this turnoff here. Let's just take a peek. and see what's going on. Yeah, it's getting darker and darker and darker. And, oh, here's a sign that says, what does it say here? Oh, yeah, Lower Onion. There's a Lower Onion, all right. All right, we got a little ways to go yet. I can see that. All right, so here we go. Far short of the truth. At first, proceeding from the problems of our own age, it seemed clear as daylight to me that the gradual widening of the present merely temporarily and social difference between the capitalist and the laborer was the key to the whole position. No doubt it will seem grotesque enough to you, and widely incredible, and yet even now there are existing circumstances to point that way. There is a tendency to utilize underground space for the less ornamental purposes of civilization. There is the Metropolitan Railway in London, for instance. There are new electric railways. There are subways. There are underground workrooms and restaurants, and they increase and multiply. Evidently, I thought this tendency had increased till industry had gradually lost its birthright in the sky. I mean that it had gone deeper and deeper into larger and even larger underground factories, spending a still increasing amount of its time therein, till in the end, even now, does not an East End worker live in such artificial conditions as practically to be cut off from the natural surface of the earth? Yeah, right? Again, the exclusive tendency of richer people, due, no doubt, to the increasing refinement of their education, and the widening gulf between them and the rude violence of the poor, is already leading to the closing, in their interest, of considerable portions of the surface of the land. About London, for instance, perhaps half of the prettier country is shut in against intrusion, and this same widening gulf, which is due to the length and exposure of the higher educational process and the increased facilities for and temptations towards refined habits on the part of the rich, will make that exchange between class and class, that promotion by intermarriage, by which at present retards the splitting of our species along lines of social stratification, less and less frequent. So, in the end, above ground, you must have the haves, pursuing pleasure and comfort and beauty, and below ground, the have-nots, the workers, getting continually adapted to the conditions of their labor. Once they were there, they would, no doubt, have to pay rent, and not a little of it, for the ventilation of their caverns, and if they refused, they would starve or be suffocated for arrears. Oh, let's take a peek here. What are we doing? Oh, I know. Yeah, this is it right here. We're gonna turn in here. I think this is our first stop at this campground, and we're still just a little bit trepidatious as to what we're gonna experience down this gravel road here. But fortunately, we have done gravel roads before, so it's not something that's really scaring us. And I can't remember, but I had been for years up and down this Colorado River with motorcycles, so it's most likely I've been in here, or I was in Upper Onion. Is that Lower Onion Creek campground? Anyway, Yeah, here we going into here, and the light is just getting so low, and it starts to really get kind of a nice sunsetty type of thing here. So we'll just let you have that, and I will get back to the story, even if I can find out where it was now. Live in such artificial conditions, practically cut off from the natural surface. Again, the exclusive tendency of the richer people. Oh, yeah, right? Okay, upper world, and there seem to be. The refined beauty is, okay, no, that we ain't there yet. All right, adapted to the conditions, have to pay rent and ventilation, or they would starve or be suffocated for arrears. Such of them as were so constituted as to be miserable and rebellious would die, and in the end, the balance being permanent, the survivors would become as well adapted to the conditions of underground life and as happy in their way as the upper world people were to theirs. As it seems to me, the refined beauty and the etiolated pallor followed naturally enough. The great triumph of humanity I had dreamed of took a different shape in my mind. It had been no such triumph of moral education and general cooperation as I had imagined. Instead, I saw real aristocracy, armed with a perfected science and working to a logical conclusion, the industrial system of today. Its triumph had not been simply a triumph over nature, but a triumph over nature and the fellow man. This, I must warn you, was my theory at the time. I had no convenient cicerone in the pattern of the utopian books. My explanation may be absolutely wrong. I still think it is the most plausible one. But even on this supposition, the balanced civilization that was at last attained must have long since passed its zenith, and was now far fallen into decay. The too perfect security of the upper worlders had led them to a slow movement of degeneration, to a general dwindling in size, strength, and intelligence, that I could see clearly enough already. What had happened to the undergrounders I did not yet suspect. But from what I had seen of the Morlocks, that, by the by, was the name by which these creatures were called, I could imagine that the modification of the human type was even far more profound than among the Eloi, the beautiful race that I already knew. Then came the troublesome doubts. Why had the Morlocks taken my time machine? For I felt sure it was they who had taken it. Why, too, if the Eloi were masters, could they not restore the machine to me? And why were they so terribly afraid of the dark? I know why. Food. I proceeded, as I have said, to question Weena about this underworld. But here again I was disappointed. At first she would not understand my questions, and presently she refused to answer them. She shivered as though the topic was unendurable, and when I pressed her, perhaps a little harshly, she burst into tears. They were the only tears, except my own, I ever saw in that golden age. When I saw them, I ceased abruptly to trouble about the Morlocks, and was only concerned in banishing these signs of the human inheritance from Weena's eyes. And very soon she was smiling and clapping her hands, while I solemnly burnt a match. Oh boy, isn't that a pretty view? So yeah, there's no reservations or at least there wasn't at this time, those BLM campgrounds along the Colorado River there. There's first come, first serve. So we decided to just roll on up here one day for Thanksgiving. And that's, one of the great things about the diesel pusher is the amount of range you get from a tank of fuel. And if you're thinking about, some of the differences between a gas coach and a diesel coach, well, it's something they don't really talk about too much is, a 35-foot gas coach, say. Well, that thing's huge, and you got to go to a regular gas station. So that kind of stress. And then a lot of times, often, they put the fuel filler cap right at the back of the coach. So now picture yourself at a gas station where you got 35 feet, but you have to pull so far ahead. Like, how many gas stations are going to be able to accommodate you? Now you put it with those gas coaches are getting, 5 or 6 miles to the gallon kind of thing. And they've got, a 60 or maybe an 80-gallon tank. So, you're making those stops way more often. And I wish Ronnie had a bigger tank. She's got a 100-gallon fuel tank. And so, from the Phoenix area up to Moab, there's about 500 miles. So don't even have to stop. If I don't have to stretch my legs or nothing, we could knock it all out in one shot. But I don't have to stop and deal with fuel. And when we do, we stop at the truck stops because they got the big diesel pumps, and it takes, practically no time at all to fill up. They got big nozzles. They're meant to fill up the tractor trailers. And those gas pumps, well, you got that little tiny nozzle. So here you are, blocking the entire gas station area with your giant RV. And it takes you half an hour to fill up. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And you got to do that twice, maybe 3 times in a day. Yikes. All right. So there's some of the advantages. Now, I wish Ronnie had a 150-gallon or a 200-gallon tank. And, I'll take some of that 40 feet away because in order to get a 150-gallon tank, I think I have to spend 4 times the amount. I think I got to get close to $1 million in order to get that extra 50 gallons. So I'm not sure that it's worth it. It's probably not worth it. All right. So we kind of rambling on and on here because we're so close to the end of this video. And we just finished off chapter 5. That was chapter 5 with the time machine. And I don't know what I said it was, but it's part 8 or something like that. But we're rolling into chapter 6 now. And I don't know, what should I do? Should I say chapter 6, part 1? Yeah, probably. Who knows? We'll see what happens next time. That's why I can never find any of my files or anything, is because, I don't have any naming schema where I do everything the same all the time. All right, so let's just call it good right here, and we'll catch you next time, guys. Thanks so much for coming along and enjoying the story. And we'll get more to it next time. Well, we've already met the people below and the people above now, so see. And we'll just leave you with a few seconds of Big Old Rosie, because that makes me feel good right there. You go, Big Rosie.